He's talking about Mandalorian. I should probably watch that.
Wait a minute.
Excuse me. Oh, we're live. Hi! What's
Hey!
up? I'm Lou Jack. That's Taylor.
I'm Taylor, this is Lou Jack, and we are playing Ace Attorney.
This game.
Did you not remember what game we're playing? It's right in front of me. It's right in front of you.
Oh, no.
Staring right at me.
It's trying to put a game in my brain.
It's that game. It's that game of my dream.
It's that flying game thing.
That's not a dream. That would never be a dream.
There's a flying game thing in my dream.
Oh my gosh, it's a dream.
Then what's that over there? Oh my god, it's that dream.
It's called the Ace Attorney.
You trying to say Ace Attorney?
Nah, if I was trying to say Ace Attorney, I'd say Ace Attorney. This is an Ace Attorney. Look right there, and then it just has the sign that says Ace Attorney.
Ace Attorney. Wait, what the fuck do you mean you're not charging anymore? How did you stop being plugged in?
I thought it was not charging because it was full. It's like I've got too much of a charge here.
There's too much charge. I gotta get rid of it. I'm so full of charge.
I'm just gonna sit here like I just had a turkey dinner. I'm gonna sit here like I just had a Swedish filet. It's a very rich meal.
It's a very rich meal. It's not the kind of meal that you can just go loitering afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like three.
Hey, you just finished your meal. You're gonna have to call in sick.
It's like 3 Thanksgiving turkeys.
That's like one mega turkey.
One mega.
One
it's like
Whoville roast beefs, please.
It's like 3 whole turduckens on one Thanksgiving.
And turducken is such like a fascinating, terrifying meal. It's like,
you ever had it?
I mean, I only know about like its existence.
Yeah, same.
You put I think it's a duck and a chicken and a turkey.
Okay, so I got this idea for a Thanksgiving meal. Basically, you take this bird and you shove it right up another bird's ass. And then you take a bird that's even bigger than that, and then you shove that bird up the way up that bird's ass. And then you cook it, and then you eat it.
Yeah. And I'm like, why? Like, I don't know. I'm a very picky eater, so it's like, I feel like, why would you mix 3 kinds of meat? I mean, they're all poultry, you know, they're all the same basic type of meat, but like, why mix them together like that? Layer them.
Some people are into that. Don't judge. You're an
I mean, I don't understand.
I am
really
well
understand
aware
burgers either, so maybe that's my limited palate right there.
I am well aware of how picky you are when it comes to food. That's why I don't eat pizza with you. Unless
you
I'm
eat
like
pizza with me, don't you lie?
Unless I'm like with
we eat
you
pizza together all the time. It's great.
Yeah, we do. No, every time I have a birthday, I always have to get like a personal pizza for Taylor because he only eats
one
cheese
personal pizza for me.
Yeah. So
and
can I get like 2 meat lovers and like 3 bacon eaters and 6...
And then you just see me in the corner of the room, just like opening my coat and slipping him a $5 bill.
And like 1 personal pizza for my picky eater friend. I will say...
Yeah, one wheel for Johnny in the corner there.
1 wheel for I will say that
cheese pizza... a wheel.
Just a wheel. I will say the cheese pizza from Costco is pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's what would you call that? Like a wagon wheel?
Yeah, a wagon wheel.
Oh man, yeah. Costco pizza is good. Like the funny thing is that like pizza apparently like pizzas are actually not just vastly different on brand, but they're really different depending on who's making them, which is why I feel so baffled that like the same brand of pizza can be so different that like someone in like California can be like, oh yeah, Pizza Hut, it's terrible, it's only mildly better than Little Caesars or something. But then like here in like Arizona, you have a Pizza Hut, and it's like this is like good. It's got the cheese is fully melted, it's consistent, and it's not burnt on anything, and it doesn't have bubbles. Like
Pizza Hut is like the creme of the crop in Arizona.
Yeah, I guess they're a little more stringent with, not just burning it and turning it into like a lava.
Yeah, whereas Little Caesars is like cooked cardboard.
I haven't tried it in a while, but I'll just have to take your word for it.
And then everywhere else is just kind of like, well, this could be better.
Yeah, and then I don't know what the general consensus on Costco pizza is. Only that like, as far as I've seen, like it's kind of it's like they've cracked the code, because it's not just that they make like quality pizza, it's the fact that they make like bazillions of them a day, which means that like they've gotten it down to a science.
Right.
Like if it was like, if they're doing it once in a while and that was like their handcrafted like thing, if that was like basically like the tailor-made pizza, then it'd be like, oh yeah, this makes sense. But the fact that like they've got it where they produce that all the time means that like they've got all the steps written down.
Yeah. I
need that formula. We gotta steal the Costco pizza formula.
We gotta steal the Krabby Pizza formula.
Yeah, and then we ransom it back to Costco, but only if we get a highway named after us.
Yeah.
Shout out to anyone who's seen the first 3 episodes of the Harley Quinn cartoon. It's been quite fun. It's better than I expected.
I haven't seen it. Well, I was expecting it to be great, so I better not be disappointed.
I was expecting it to be good, but then drop the ball occasionally because it didn't.
Is this like a DC Universe show?
I don't know if this is a
service?
I don't know if this is some kind of DC Universe show. I just know that I really like the overall concept. It's actually more thoughtful and mature than I expected it to be.
I will say
all it needs is a musical number.
Yeah, right. I will say the idea of anyone in Gotham besides Batman having their own TV show is the most mind-baffling thing I've ever heard of. Because
not including Titans or something.
Yeah, because the Titans don't even operate in Gotham. Robin's always there, but there's always a Robin, but it's never in Gotham.
Oh yeah, he's in the neighboring town of Gotham.
Yeah.
Wait, I've never seen the Nightwing mobile, so do you think he just takes the bus?
He has a cycle. He has a cycle.
Oh yeah, he probably has a motorcycle that looks like a Tron cycle or something.
I haven't read the Nightwing comic yet. Or I've never read any Nightwing comic. Guys, look, I'm very new to comic books. I've always been fascinated.
You say that, but then it's if you actually wrote out what you've read, it's a big chunk. It's just there's a lot to cover,
there's a lot to cover. Yeah.
There's literally over 52 titles in the new 52.
And I skipped over most of it, and I only really read some.
You can basically skip over half of it, considering how many. There's a lot of hits and misses. I gotta say though, still, the first 5 volumes of Wonder Woman were quite fun and had some fun twists. The entire New 52 run of Harley Quinn was just, I feel like that's the definitive version of the character overall.
See, I get super... I always get depressed when someone's like, yeah, this version of the person that's so great is in the New 52. But it's look, man, I read 2 different Teen Titans comic books, and then I read Red Hood and the Outlaws. And the Teen Titans were meh. Red Hood and the Outlaws was just okay. Red Hood and Arsenal was pretty fantastic. And then there was Starfire, and Starfire was where I stopped reading New 52 stuff. That was when I was I think I'm just gonna skip to Rebirth now, because, I don't want to read any more New 52 stuff. I've gotten some meh comics, an okay comic, one great comic, and then this garbage fire. I think.
Yeah, well, that's why you should go with my recommendation specifically, because I went through and read a bazillion of these.
Yeah.
And I used to have like a spreadsheet where I'd mark down what I'd read, and it's pretty chunky. There's a bazillion titles that I didn't even like get around to. But specifically, I gotta say, the New 52 Harley, like, it's sort of like, I feel like it's the new definition of Harley Quinn. In the same way that, like, Harley Quinn's animated series appearance, like, basically defined her into existence, but also gave, like, a lot of the basic traits that be carried on into cartoons, or later cartoons and games and such. I think New 52 Harley defines a lot of the new, like, character concepts and characters overall. Because, like, for instance, I'm pretty sure Cy Borgman, he's secretly a cyborg. I'm pretty sure Cy originally showed up in New 52 Harley. Like,
Cyborgman?
Cy, first name Cy, last name Borgman.
He
just happens to be a cyborg.
Is he, like, even a little related to Cyborg?
Oh no, he was made a cyborg back in like World War II, or yeah, like around World War II. So he's like, I don't know, 60 or something years old, and he's like, oh yeah, my cyborg parts are still cyborg parts, but like the rest of my body has trouble like carrying them around. And yeah, he's a voice of wisdom for Harley.
I think there's like a female cyborg now, hanging out with like male cyborg. I remember hearing something about that being a thing that existed, which is neat. But I mean, like,
more cyborgs.
Yes, but like, okay, here's my question about that. The thing that created Cyborg was like such an astronomical series of events, like aliens invaded and then a weird alien box got merged to him. So like, did that happen again? But then I think, well, I mean, Barry and Wally got their powers in exactly the same fucking way, so it's not the most unbelievable thing I've read in a comic.
I was gonna say, I always thought that the original procedure was just really risky, and so you'd only use it if you were saving someone's life who is otherwise, like, basically about to die.
I think that was the original concept, but then they decided to make Cyborg like half Mother Box or Father Box. I don't remember.
Well,
which.
yeah, but as in it was still like some kind of important life-saving procedure or something. My point being that theoretically, if it's been enough time after that, that you could like I mean, this is just me like coming up with a backstory idea, but like, you could theoretically have Cyborg picking it apart and seeing if such a thing could be replicated again as a risky but useful, like, thing. Or you could just have someone who was messing around with some mother boxes and managed to get one glued to them.
Right. You know what really annoys me about DC?
Zack Snyder.
Yes, Zack Snyder. But like,
look,
like
I
a
heard
lot.
that the Snyder cut of Zack Snyder as a person is better.
Can you tell me what the Snyder cut is? Because I've heard the phrase, but I'm not entirely sure what it refers to. Like the Snyder cut of what?
I'm not entirely sure either. I think it's supposed to be an extended director's cut of Justice League. That is like supposed to be better in some way. But what's funny about that is that, like, sure, there were lots of like reshoots halfway through filming. That's what led to a bunch of like unpolished CG and that sort of thing. But
Right.
I asked myself, like, I can believe that like some kind of original vision for this movie is better, but then I remember it's Zack Snyder, and I just don't think it would be that much better. I mean, it's not like his previous works were like way better and then like got toned down.
It's like watching. It's like the equivalent of playing like a really good story-based game, and then learning that like there's a David Cage cut of it, and the original version isn't that good, and you think, oh well, there's a David Cage version. Oh, but it'll probably be just as bad, if not worse.
I'm that actually kind of works, but yeah, it's wild because like what the wildest part is that I guess the real hope is that if I still want the Snyder Cut to be released in some way, just because you'd have an idea of like different scenes. I always like new content, and also I want to see if there were scenes and stuff that were actually decent that just weren't added or didn't make the final cut. It's kind of wild how like it wasn't just like the director's fault. It was they actually had they switched. I think they switched directors like halfway through and did a bunch of reshoots, and because of that, a bunch of stuff was rushed, which is why the CG looks kind of like unconvincing. Like they had to animate like a bazillion like parademons and such, and you can tell that they didn't get the final pass on the CG because, well, they had the budget and everything for like modern CG. It's just that they didn't like get polished up, which is why they look like kind of rubbery and old-timey CG, like from years ago.
But no, what I was gonna say is, what really annoys me about DC is the fact that they've got like, I feel like they don't utilize characters from the other companies that they own enough. Like, you hardly ever see Static in anything, and
oh my gosh.
And then there's all the Wildstorm stuff. I don't know anything about any of who is in Wildstorm. I know that they exist, but
you gotta be fair about Static Shock though, because I think the original creator for Static Shock died like in the last decade or so.
Yeah, but
so you'd have to find someone who could really pick up the mantle.
No, it isn't so much that it isn't how Static is written in the comic books. The issue is that he's like not written like
he's not
at all.
Like he should be connected to stuff that crossover episode with him and Batman.
Yeah, like since I started reading comic books, the only time I've seen Static was in like the new 52 Teen Titans. And he didn't even do any Static stuff. He was there as like a scientist person.
And Static Shock is there, and he's got his friends, the armadillo whose name escapes me.
But what bothers me even more is the fact that that Static is like the only milestone character that people are even aware exists in DC. Like, nobody knows Gear, nobody knows Shebang, nobody knows who Rubber Bandman is because they're not there. It's like they just don't exist anymore.
My biggest thing with DC was sort of this point, but basically back when Marvel wasn't absorbed by Disney and then like ate all of the other companies, my whole thing was Marvel is doing the best they can with the copyrights they can. Because they don't have Fantastic Four, they can't have like Reed Richards as part of the was it Illuminati or what have you?
Right.
Group. So you can't do the exact plot lines from the comics. And that was also back when I was like, yes, let's do the exact plot lines from the comics for some reason, instead of like doing something original with a new medium. And I was looking at that, and I was like looking at DC, and it's like DC is owned by Warner Brothers, which is another like industry giant. There's no reason why they can't pull out all the stops and do any amount of characters within this vast universe. Like just like the fact that they could just basically start up a Justice League Unlimited at any point and just be like, yeah, we're just gonna have like new characters show up and be on the show, disappear. Like we could have like a new character like every week basically, and have like a rotating background cast with like a main cast of like 4 people.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
You could be like, look, you know what we did with like Smallville, where like how Smallville lasted for like way more seasons than everyone remembers, and it had basically like the whole Justice League, just not at the same time. We should just do that, except like in earnest and with all the characters.
Right. Dude, you know what blew my mind to learn about when I was like, so, so I did not know that Richie Foley had like a completely different name in the comic books and was also gay. And when I learned that, I was like, what? He's like a completely different person.
I don't recognize that name.
Um, I can't remember what he was called in the comic books, but like his name was changed by the for the TV show. Hang on. Hang on. What was his name? Milestone. Gear. No, I don't want to buy Milestones. Milestone Comics. Milestone Comics.
How about you just tell me what to look up and you can hit the button on continue because we're playing.
Yeah, we were playing a game, weren't we? Stone. It was Stone. It was Rick Stone.
Richard Stone.
Yeah, just Rick Stone was his name. And
Richard and Mortimer.
Yeah, Richard and Mortimer. And he was like gay in the comic books, and they did this whole storyline where like people find out about that and became like super homophobic, and they like thought it was contagious or some shit, and it was weird.
That is weird.
And Milestone, I haven't October 18th, Wright and Co. law offices. It was funny because like I've never read any actual Milestone comic books, but like just the fact that so many of their characters were like not white people and they had like a prominent gay dude, I feel like it was ahead of its time for the time period it came out in. Cause like,
yeah, like the Blade movies. Where
yeah, because like they did not allow him to be the same person in the cartoon. Like it
wild.
just wasn't allowed. So they changed his name to Richie Foley, and like.
And then Doom Patrol came along, and it's like, yo, check this out.
Yeah, and I remember there's this YouTube channel called Watchtower Database, and they were talking about it, and they were talking about how they like talked to the people who wrote these shows, and they were like, yeah, you know, I really wanted to, like I would really have loved nothing more than to make these characters, you know, be gay and like have that not be weird, but because it was aimed toward children, we just weren't allowed to do that, so I just had to do everything subliminally. And of course, my dumb kid brain never picked up on any of it because I didn't understand what that stuff was as a kid. But then looking back on it, I'm like, oh, everything makes sense now. People were douchebags.
I'm glad that we live in a post Steven Universe timeline.
Post Steven Universe, post Doom Patrol, post I don't know. Arrowverse has a lot of prominent LGBT characters.
Yeah, and you know what's wild? That reminds me. I can't remember his name for some reason, but like the actor for Poe Dameron is like in interviews is like, oh yeah, Finpo should probably be a thing. That's how I acted out the scenes, and I really thought that was going to develop, but I don't know if it will. And it's like, yeah, because the executives are cowards.
Wait, what's Finpo?
A ship between Poe Dameron and Finn.
Oh.
Like, that's, like, it wasn't just, like, a subtext that people, like, added in. It was something that the actor himself, like, thought was a reasonable assumption.
Ah.
Like, he put that energy into the acting. And so, the fact is, like, it can be totally canon, like, in your head, I guess. But, like, they won't, like, allow it to be in the movies. It's so frustrating.
That is weird. And then, wasn't there like, I do not remember Last Jedi, like, at all, but I remember there was like some random girl that was hanging out with Finn and like wanted to be with him. but they and it was a whole weird thing, and it felt kind of forced, and I don't know.
Now I'm just imagining that where it's just that whole thing plays out, and Finn's like, "Look, you're really cool and all, but I kind of already got a thing going. A thing? Yeah, yeah. With who? Uh, he got demoted recently.
Do
It's
you
kind of
remember?
embarrassing.
Do you know who I'm talking about though?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because I remember like a lot of beats from that movie, so I'm like kind of surprised that you don't remember. It's like it had a
Dude,
lot of
it that
stuff
shit
going
was
on.
like forever ago. Star Wars franchise is a series that like I remember what the whole of the story is. I just don't remember any of the movies, even though I've seen them all, but I've only seen them once. Thing is, I was never a Star Wars fan. Like growing up, I never liked it, and that probably has something to do with the fact that the first Star Wars movie I remember seeing in theaters was Phantom Menace.
Well, I was
Boy,
gonna say for people of our approximate age, the first movie, Star Wars movie you probably saw in theaters was Phantom Menace.
that's what I just said.
No, as in like statistically speaking, because like it's easy to forget just how old the original Star Wars movies are. Like the first one came out in like 75, I think.
Yeah, and the only reason I wound up watching the Star Wars movies at all was because a friend of mine is into them, and she had like all of the movies. I mean, before the new ones came out, before Force Unleashed, and this was like when Force Unleashed was coming out or had come out, and she was like, "Dude, we should like watch. You should come watch the Star Wars movies with me, and then you can like go watch the new ones." And I was like, "Okay." And I also didn't have glasses at the time because they had broken, and I was ready waiting to get new ones. So my entire viewing of experience for the first one was super blurry, and like the whole time I'm watching it, like almost immediately when I saw Anakin, I was like, "Just become Darth Vader already."
I
Like,
feel like
like
I feel like the lack of the lack of a satisfying transition to Darth Vader is like one of the big missing chunks. You know,
yeah,
like it's one of the things that the series, the franchise, like really needed. And I feel like, I mean, if you want like satisfying writing and stuff, then I guess go watch like Clone Wars and Rebels or something.
I have not seen those.